So I'm supposed to make a book response this week, and I tried making a video, and I kind of hated it. So I'm trying to make another one, and hopefully this one's a little better. I read a book called The Devil's Arithmetic by Jane Yolen. And as you can see right here, it is the winner of the National Jewish Book Award. I thought it was a fantastic book. It's about a young girl named Hannah Stern who is tired of remembering. She's frustrated by her family's Jewish traditions and the ways that the Holocaust is continuing to affect her grandparents. And she doesn't want to remember. She understands the facts of the Holocaust. She's learned those things in school, but she doesn't understand the effect it had on people. And through the book, she ends up traveling back to 1942 Poland and experiencing what her family went through at that time. And I can't really tell you more about her time travel because that would ruin the book for you. And I don't want to do that because it's a good book and you should read it. But through that experience, she comes to she has first-hand experience with these memories. And she also finds that as she becomes more part of this world that she's in 1942, she starts to lose her own memories of who she was before. And so going on that journey with her is really interesting. And I think it brings up a lot of really great thoughts on history, why it's so important to learn and to understand, because not only should we have a good understanding of our history and where we came from, and also understand why certain things happened and prevent those kinds of events from happening in the future, especially in the case of the Holocaust. But it also really, events like that affect our entire culture, and that in turn affects who we are. So that history becomes a part of us, and remembering it is remembering who we are. It's really understanding ourselves, and that's a realization that Hannah really comes to through this journey, and I think it points that out for all of us. I thought this book specifically was really good. I enjoyed reading it. It's from my own daughter's collection. She's going into 6th grade this year, so I would definitely recommend it for middle school age students. I wouldn't go much younger, although she read it in 5th grade. She usually reads a little bit more advanced literature. And it's dealing with a really difficult subject that I wouldn't recommend for much younger. She was really excited I was reading this and kept asking me where I was in the story because she really wants to discuss it, even though she'd read it a couple months ago. Me having it out reminded her about the story. And I've read quite a few books that focus on this time, both actual survivor stories and fiction, like this one is. And I've really enjoyed all of them pretty much because it's a time in history that I specifically enjoy learning more about, because I think it was such a pivotal time for not just the Jewish community, but the world, and World War II, all of the things that were going on at that time, and how that changed the world and a lot of our cultures throughout the world. A lot of changes came as a result of a lot of that happened during that time. So Devil's Arithmetic is a fantastic book, great Jewish perspective, and I think it really helps more modern Jewish people and people in general to connect to that time and feel like that it's still important. Other books that I could recommend in fiction, there's also Lois Lowry's Number of the Stars, Newbery Medal winner. It's a fantastic one. I read that when it came out. Loved it. Still have it today. Between Shades of Grey, this one. I haven't read that one yet. It's in the to read pile. Moving up there since we got Devil's Arithmetic done now. And then I have a whole bunch of these survivor stories. Survivors, True Stories of Children of the Holocaust. That's a good one. Lots of short stories, and they're all people who really survived. I think that's one of the things that it's good to make sure that students understand, is that although so many people died, and that's important to understand as well, that there were people who did survive, and it's important to understand what they went through as well, and to learn about that. There's also Ellie, My True Story of the Holocaust. It's about one specific individual. Escape, Children of the Holocaust, another one that is specifically, that has the short stories versions. But what I really like about some of these books is they're approachable to children because they focus on children. So it's not just a person. It's a little bit more relatable for them because all of these books focus on young people, and so they can really make that text-to-self connection. Obviously, there's a huge text-to-world connection here, or if you combine them, you have a text-to-text connection. But the text-to-self, I think, is really helped by having the characters or the people featured be other young people, because they'll say, oh, I remember when I was that age, and I can't imagine if this happened to me, if I lost this, or I went through that, or that's my age right now. And it really helps to make that connection. So Prisoner B3087, that one's a novel, but it's based on a true story of some people who survived. Hiding from the Nazis in Holland. So it doesn't just focus on one country. We have several of the countries where this was happening. And Roman's Journey, A Memoir of Survival, which is an autobiography of someone who survived. Of course, there are many others, including Anne Frank's diary. And I specifically want to touch on that one because part of the reason why I like these other stories, and the one that I read just now for this response as well, is that they are not in Frank's diary. And that's not to say that it's not good to use. But when I was learning about the Holocaust in school, you can see my big pile of books here. See all these books? I was only assigned one book in Frank's diary. And I was assigned it at least 3 times to read. And I started to get like Hannah in Devil's Arithmetic. It wasn't that I didn't want to remember, but I was tired of remembering because I was presented this very narrow little view. It was always that same view of the Holocaust, of what it meant to live through that time as a young Jewish person. And Anne Frank's was the only perspective to which I was introduced. And I don't want to be like Hannah at the beginning of the book. And I definitely don't want my students to end up like that. I don't want them to feel like there's this one little way to view history or literature or anything that we do in the classroom. I think it's very important that they have a much more diverse view, that they know these other books are out there, that they have a choice even in what they read, and that they can get a much better understanding of the world, of themselves, of the content by diversifying. And I think it will be much easier for me to engage my students and get them excited about learning and about reading when I give them that opportunity. I don't want them to turn off. I certainly don't want them to have to go back to 1942 Poland to understand what these things are. I want them to be able to want to remember, to know that remembering is important, not just for school, but for the world, for the future, and for themselves, so they can really have a better understanding of who they are and where we all come from as far as history is concerned.